everyone. Welcome to another episode of Nerd Age. This is the show where we discuss everything nerdy. My name is Mick. With me, as always, are my co-hosts Josh.
What's up?
Corey.
Hello.
And Jonathan.
Yo.
Okay. Hey, where are your headphones?
I got the see-through ones. The new ones. The Beats.
Invisible headphones.
Yeah, Invisible
Yes.
Beats by Dre.
Don't lose them. Well, welcome to the show, guys. Today we're just going to be talking about some Rings of Power Episode 3.
That's right.
Full spoilers, so if you haven't watched the episode, go watch the episode and then come back and listen to us talk about it. So let's get into it. What do you guys think?
Do it.
What do you think, Jonah?
I really liked it. I think this is the best episode of the three.
Is this the best Rings of Power episode of all time?
It might be.
It is. So for me, it is the
Three
best
deep.
episode of all time. We can just kind of jump in and stuff, but what I really liked, one of my favorite things, were the orcs. I really like how the orcs are done, and the fact that they're kind of staying true to what Tolkien wrote about like them not liking sunlight.
Yeah.
In Peter Jackson, they were just like,
Whatever.
they
it
didn't
doesn't
really
matter.
acknowledge that. But in this, I thought it was really cool. So I really like that whole aspect. And also, there's kind of like an element of like Corey's favorite word, horror.
Really?
With the orcs. And so in the second episode, kind of how they show, like they don't really showing them. They show kind of their hands and their claws and stuff like that. But I liked in this one, they kind of have a similar thing where he's kind of like knocked out and they're wearing the mask. So you're never seeing a real face. So I really like that. But then I also liked how they're actually competent. Like the fact that they've caught a bunch of elves and they have the elves working for them.
They've
I
got
thought
a
that
good
was
system.
really cool. They're not just like mindless, goons.
They're not cannon fodder.
They actually seem like a threat. And I really like that. So that was kind of the first thing I wanted to bring up. What do you guys think of the orcs?
Yeah, I would agree. And actually, I think the one actor that was in Lord of the Rings, he played one of the dwarves in the Hobbit.
Plays Nori.
Yes, he was one of the orcs.
Oh, nice.
And so, little continuity there from
Same orc.
vision to vision.
Same
But no, again, with the practical makeup, it was just really nice to see.
Yeah.
It looked really good. And yeah, I like the whole afraid of the sun aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That was my favorite set or storyline, I guess. Because it just felt like a fun, like it almost felt like a D&D set piece, almost like where it's like, here's the issue,
Yeah,
here's
we
the
gotta
problem you're
escape.
in. You got to escape, this internment camp basically, and it's just really cool. I love the reveal at the end with his captain, I think it was, or something like that, where he goes up there and he's escaping. He gets just shot by arrows. And it's
That
like,
was cool.
dang, he's in deep. Like, even if he defeats these guys, like, nah, like he's screwed. So it's cool. I really like that engagement, and also the warg.
Yeah.
Org was terrifying.
That thing
was creepy.
The first sight of him, I was like, I think it's gonna look a little cheap. But then it actually turned out really good. It looked good. So I was totally cool with it.
Yeah. People are hating on it. They're like,
warg.
They're like, this is bad CGI.
The
I'm like-
initial
I'm like,
scene was
that's
bad.
not bad CGI. That is amazing CGI. It looks really good. If you don't like the design, because I see people that are like, oh, it's
looks
just
like
a
a pig,
chihuahua.
yeah.
So
I was like, it looks like a hyena.
Yeah.
It's what it looks like.
Yeah.
it looks like a crazy hyena.
Yeah. I thought it was a cool looking design.
You know when your dog Snips gets those
Yeah.
crazy eyes? I saw that in the warg's face. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
dude, when Anakin walks by and she's like,
Yo, she looks crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
scary, dude.
But no, it was just the initial.
When it's coming out of the tunnel.
Exactly. So there was a lot of shade there, and he was lit up a little too much, for my opinion. But after that, it cleared up. It was great in the full sun. It looked great, and then in the roots of the tree, that looked awesome. That whole part with the chain and stuff like that, controlling them, that was awesome. I love seeing elves fight because they're so creative and they're so good at
that
being it.
kick with the whip.
Yeah,
Where
that
he
was
whips him.
dope.
I was like, that's pretty sweet.
I also liked when they pull all the chains together and like,
Yeah, dude.
like
Yeah.
trying to hammer
Go,
around.
go,
I was
go,
like, that's really cool. And then when the orcs come in, they're all like doing a tug of war, basically.
Yeah.
That was cool. The scene I really liked too was when the orc commander comes out and he like gives them water.
Yeah.
And he's
Oh,
like,
dude, that was
"Drink it."
awesome.
That was really cool because I was like, I mean,
What's gonna happen here?
I texted Josh and Joel and I was
I
like,
know.
don't drink the water. He peed in it, you know? But like,
yeah.
it was really cool. I wasn't expecting him to slice it. I was like, oh, what's in the water? Are they going to like spit it out or something? And then he gives it to the one dude and he just slits his throat. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And again, it plays into the aspect of like the orcs aren't messing around.
Dude, that was good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
Like for sure.
It was really cool.
Homie,
Yeah.
I bet you're thirsty.
Here, have some water.
And I'm also curious about the what's the guy's name? Azad or what's the
Adar.
Adar.
Yeah.
He's not like he's a made up character, obviously.
Right.
He's not, but that's kind of I like what they're doing because everyone's anticipating who's Sauron.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of doing this with a lot of characters. They did it with Meteor Man. They've done it with the guy's name. Halbrand.
Yeah.
And they're doing it with this guy too, where everyone's mentioning like, oh, it's Sauron. Could that be? I think that's really cool. And I think they're going to keep doing that with other characters
Yeah.
for you as an audience member to keep second guessing,
Dude.
and being like,
They've been like, is Galadriel Sauron? She did talk about the darkness inside
that is
of her.
true.
So.
I just think
was
that I
me
think that's
all
cool. Because how are you gonna trick people? You know, you can't have just someone show up and be like, "Oh, that's definitely him." This is a cool way to be like have people discussing like, is it him or is
Yeah.
it all three of them? Is it? I think that's really
How
cool.
long do you think this is going to go? How many seasons, or is this the end of the season reveal, or how long is this fourth season reveal for Sauron? What are we looking at? What do you guys think?
I don't think we get it
It's
revealed
too
season
cheap
1.
to do a season 1 in my
I
opinion,
think
yeah.
season 2 probably we get a reveal. I don't think you drag it out.
because he has to have enough time to like weave in and give these rings out and all this time. Like that's a lot of like progression story wise, and the speed at which we're going. I think it's going to be like a 3 or 4. Season 3 or 4. I think it might be season 3.
Would it be revealed to the audience and not to the characters? Or do you think it'd be the same time? Like, would we get clued in first?
Yeah.
I think audience gets clued in because then you're
Yeah.
able to watch him do stuff and be like, "No, don't do it." Right?
Yeah,
Characters
maybe.
all know.
Maybe.
Well, because at some point you're going to be like, hey, that's definitely Sauron. He's handing the rings out, bro. You know what I mean?
Or you'll see some like one of the like men have a ring or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing like more men influenced by it. But,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting.
It'd be cool.
I hope it is a keep you guessing through season 1,
Yeah.
and then let's figure it out later.
Is there any
Yeah.
way, again, going into lore, is there any way that Sauron can be multiple people? Like, is that something he can do?
Like teleport?
I don't know if that's something like
Because he can change his appearance, right?
his appearance,
Freely.
but can he like go to
Teleport.
different places? Like,
I
is
mean,
that?
there's nothing that ever says anything about him.
I mean, there's a
teleporting or
magical
anything
ring
like
that turns you invisible. So, can there be a magical ring that's like?
Yeah, teleport.
Instant
He made a
transmission.
teleportation ring.
Instant transmission. Yeah.
So
So I don't know. Is there a possibility that he's multiple characters?
it's if you say, is it possible? Yes, but then they would have to explain how is he. Oh, he's here in this area, and then he's like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed now.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
Unless they did something where it was like maybe the stories weren't in sync time wise, but I think that'd be really messy.
Yeah, way too messy.
Yeah.
But
I
he
think
could be like someone like, say if there's a character in Numenor, he could like be one character and then in that same place like be another character, right?
Yeah,
as long as they're not in the same room.
theoretically.
I don't
right?
think-
I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
if is that in his
Right.
Toolkit.
I mean,
I
it
don't.
doesn't say he can't.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he will. I think there's going to be a Sauron red herring in every story beat.
Yeah.
In every story.
That would make sense.
And then one of them is going to be the real one.
yeah.
I
think that's
personally
how it
like
works out.
the theory that Halbrand is like a ring wraith. He becomes a ring wraith.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
Even the Witch King, but
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked what they did with Halbrand, kind of making him a little bit of a dirtbag.
Scoundrel.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting, and it wasn't like annoying to me. Like I was like, yeah, that makes sense. He's like trying to like weasel his way into
I think he's
it.
just smart.
Yeah,
I think they did a good
and
job
he
of
even
showing
said,
him
yeah,
he's
he
just
even
smart.
said like, hey, I'm just trying to survive. Like,
Yeah.
how do you think I've survived this long? And then I think the reveal of him being
king.
because when they talked about in the South when they were like, oh, we're waiting for our king to return.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about?
I was like,
You know,
how did he beat up those
Yeah.
homies so good?
So you guys were already waiting for Aragorn?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
people have speculated that I don't remember the kid's name, but that
Theo.
dad, yeah.
Yeah, that's possible. But
Because
yeah,
they do mention your dad left.
yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, I do like the setup of him as a character.
Yeah.
Almost being like kind of Aragorn, like, oh, he's gonna unite, the kingdom. But I like that they threw in the fact
twist,
that he's like, yeah, well, he
got a blood pact.
united people under the banner, but he swore a pact to Morgoth. So
Yeah.
so I like that kind of idea that they're playing with, and I think it'd be really cool to see him like, yeah, he becomes king, and then he gets a ring and he becomes a ring wraith. Like, I think that's a really
That'd be cool.
a
Yeah.
really cool story arc for that character.
Yeah.
Where it's like, is he going to redeem himself? And then you're like, no, in the end, he doesn't.
I think that's one of the things that I am really looking forward to and think is really cool is that you're gonna have the ring wraiths, right? There's gonna be characters that you like that then you're gonna see going down this path, and you're like, oh my gosh, she's turning into a ring wraith. Like, even though they're not connected,
And that's late.
right?
That's
But even
late
though
game.
they're not connected, like the Peter Jackson trilogy and this kind of, to me, enhances a little bit of the Lord of the Rings, because now I can watch this and say we find out those characters, and now when I watch the Lord of the Rings, I'm like, man, those are the characters.
Yeah.
That
I mean, it's yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool way to be able to. That's what's driving me crazy about people that are complaining and being like, this is trash. I'm like, man, you're getting people invested into a story that ends up going back. Like, people that have never read the books are going to watch this show, and there's a good chance that they're going to be like, man, this is really cool. Like, I want to read where it's Tolkien stuff. Like, you're going to have people going back to those stories, and I just think that's why this is so cool. So yeah, I mean, for me, that was really cool. Just being like, who are the ring wraiths going to be? Like, these characters, there's a really cool opportunity to build these characters up, and then kind of have this, like you saying, if it's like, if Halbrand's really cool and we love him, and then it's like, dude, but we know what you become in the future. Like, that's pretty awesome.
What did you guys think about the reveal of the mark, Sauron's mark?
Being a map.
It seems kind of obvious, like, once you actually look at it, but it's one of those things that I just didn't even think about.
Yeah. I think I saw people online speculating about it. Like, oh, I think a couple weeks ago, actually, someone was like, hey, the mark kind of looks like Mordor. Is that what it could be? So it was, I thought it was interesting. It didn't bother me at all. And I thought it was a cool kind of idea of like, it kind of looks like an eye.
Right.
It also works as, a location on a map, which worked for me. And I like how she's like, oh, how did I not see it? I was so blind, which like fits into her character, at least the way they're portraying her, of being like super uber focused on one thing and missing out on the small details.
Very tunnel vision.
So I think it fit well.
Well, I may be an idiot, but I am an idiot. But during this episode, I finally realized, I was like, oh, the Southlands, they're Mordor. It's Mordor. So when that happened, I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense now.
pretty fair.
It's just weird, though, because like I was like, oh, I wonder where the Southlands are. And then as I thought about it more, I was like, oh, that's Mordor, which is kind of cool. In the first episode, there's actually shots where you can see Mount Doom in the back.
Yeah.
Which I noticed on my second watch, but the first time I didn't notice it, but I was like, oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
So for someone like me, that was like, oh, clever Sauron.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are saying they were taken out by the Harfoot storyline. I actually really liked the Harfoot storyline in this episode. Like, I feel like they gave us a lot of really good emotion. Like him giving the speech, and at first you're like, he's just like a callback to Bilbo's speech. And then like to keep going and being like, hey, we're kind of cutthroat a little bit. You know what I mean? They're like, hey,
Super
you got left behind, but we still, we wait for you, kind of a thing.
I couldn't believe that. I need to remember his name, but the guy who died to bees or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And they're all laughing at him.
Yeah,
Dude,
they're
poor
like,
guy.
He's like, he's an idiot.
He is an idiot. I was like, oh man.
But I really liked that
was cool.
speech, and you're like, and then you get kind of the background of Poppy's family is all dead, basically. So that's why she's alone. And they do set up kind of that like, oh, well now, what's his name? Largo? The dad is like, well, he's going to be in the back and they don't have a problem with leaving people behind.
people, yeah.
So, I actually really enjoyed the Harfoot storyline. I also really like the transition from you go from orcs, like the orc storyline, and then like the music's really ominous and it goes to like the forest and you're like, what am I seeing? And then it's like, oh, it's the Harfoots like in doing their ritual.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed kind of like how they
Yeah.
were weaving the things together. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, what was their chant? Like,
What is it?
Harfoot stick together.
Don't go off the
Don't
road,
go
or
off the road or something.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I like that storyline too. And I feel like, again, none of the actors are bad to me. Like, I'm really enjoying like Nori and how she acts.
You're not
and-
annoyed by anyone yet.
right? And the
Yeah, same here.
her dad and I assume it's her stepmom now, right? Because
he says that when he lost his
right.
wife.
Yeah.
And so I just think like everybody is good and they fit well. So I'm really enjoying that too. It's like even parts that were just kind of like conversations, I thought were written really well to keep me interested in being like, oh, I want to learn more. Like you were saying with the Harfoots, it's like, I'm not like, oh, this is boring. I'm like, no, I want to learn more about like their culture and what they're doing. You know, I just think it's really cool how they're working that in. But can I ask you a question? So
Yes, ask me a question.
I heard that you have a theory on the meteor guy because you said
Okay.
there's like 2 meteors.
So I saw someone mention this online, and I was like, that would be pretty cool because we were talking about the blue wizards. There's 2 of them, and people were saying if you track the people's view when the meteor strikes,
You think there's a meteor behind the camera?
it doesn't match up the way people look, and so they're saying it would be really cool if this meteor strikes. He's looking for the constellation to go there, and when they get there, there's another meteor crash, so you get another wizard, and then you can have the 2 blue wizards.
homies. That'd be cool.
I think that would be cool. I still think it's probably
Me too.
Gandalf. I would really want it to be the blue wizards
Me
just
too.
because I want to get something new and different.
Yeah.
But if it's Gandalf in the end,
Gandalf makes so much sense, though.
It's
Yeah.
That's the
it
problem.
is Sauron. Yeah.
Sauron.
But yeah, I think that would be a cool
Nice.
reveal because I think they're obviously
That'd be
moving to
cool.
the south, and the blue wizards end up going to the south and then to the east.
And Gandalf does not go to the
No.
south,
Yeah, because that's
especially not the east.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's what Tolkien had. Well, he had 2 different stories. One where they went into the east and they failed. They basically became evil. And then the other one is they went to the east and they succeeded. And basically his concept was that they were working against Sauron in the east. And if they hadn't been there, then
It would have been worse.
they would have been overrun with, everyone coming from.
I like that story.
And then it's you basically have a blank slate
right.
for the creators to be like, hey, we know they went to the east and we can do whatever we want. But yeah, I think the actor for the stranger is really good.
Yeah.
Like for not saying 2
Dude,
words, the
his
whole thing, his
emotion
emotions are
in
really
his
good.
eyes.
Yeah, and I really liked his whole, like Nori gives the speech about, like what are we living for if we're not gonna like be friends, kind of a
Right.
thing. Like what's the point of living?
Right.
And then I think it was really good to have him be at the end and be like, friends, I'm your friends, kind of a thing.
Missed opportunity. He should have gone Mello.
Yeah, that's true. But I think that's one of the things that kind of annoys me is that people like it's not Tolkien. It's, oh, well, it's all made up. And I'm like, if you got to look at the themes. And like one of Tolkien's biggest themes is friendship. It's in all of his writings. It's like one of the biggest things. And so like the fact that the showrunners are like keying in on these themes, themes of destiny, themes of friendship, those kind of themes it's like important and it's in line with Tolkien's work. And for people that just completely blow off the show, I'm like, you're missing out on a lot of really cool like lore Easter eggs or just like random mentions that you're like, wow, that's really cool that they did that in live action. I never thought we would ever see that, but Anyway,
I also think that like the concept of good versus evil has been basically just not done for such a long time. And
Right.
so it's kind of refreshing to have like a sense of that. So I hope they stick to that and have aspects of the gray and the betrayal and stuff like that. But like the way like Game of Thrones is and all these other things like The Boys and stuff like that, it's like they're showing this like dirty, ugly side of people, which is realistic, you know, and there people are evil, you know, and good at the same time. But I don't know. It's something
Yeah.
refreshing about it.
it's the jaded view of things of like
Yeah.
everyone's the worst,
Cynical.
Yeah, I think Martin has always said like, oh, I'm all about
Yeah.
there's nobody's good, everyone's bad,
Right.
And it's like, oh,
It's depressing.
that's
Yeah.
that's too close to real life.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no hope in it.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I was talking to Joel today, and that's what I mentioned. I said there's something, because I watched the first episode of House of Dragon. It looked cool, but it was fine. But I was like I felt after watching it, I just felt like like I don't want to like rewatch it. I don't want to, and so I haven't watched any of the new episodes because I'm like, I don't know. There's just something about
Dude.
there's just something about how depressing it feels. And even though it looks great and the acting's good and all that, it's like not something I want to like go back and enjoy. Whereas Lord of the Rings has this element of, yes, it has darkness and it has stakes and everything, but there's an element of it feels like hopeful in it. And it's just one of those things that like you feel good. I feel good watching it. That's what I like so much about this is that, and I think is going to be good for other people, is that like you can watch it with kids, like younger kids can watch this. Whereas all these other shows that are coming out that are rated R and stuff, it's really adult centered and geared towards adults. And this feels more like, no, get your whole family together and watch it kind of thing. Yeah. And there's just something that feels good about it, you know?
Yeah.
That I really appreciate.
And I think like without or sans the nudity, right, with Game of Thrones and stuff like that, it's a super interesting and entertaining story, and I really enjoyed it. But there's just something to be said about just everything of entertainment that we're seeing is just this kind of cynical, like kind of gray area. And so it's refreshing to see, you know, a more lighter look on life and more positive, hopeful look on life.
Until Sauron comes and kills them all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen
Betray
with
someone.
all the Harfoots. It's actually the stranger
Sauron.
is Sauron, and
Yeah.
he's just going to kill them all.
They're going to be like the Fireflies.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to look at Numenor, which was
That looked sick.
really cool. Got a lot of like kind of precursor stuff to like Minas Tirith and Gondor. What did you guys think of that sequence?
Dude, when they are just on the boat coming in and they're like really close to the stone kind of like carvings of the faces and stuff, those are moments when there's movement and there's lighting. Those are moments where you see green screen. And in that moment, I was like, they did it so freaking good. It looked awesome. It looked so natural. It didn't look like they're up on a green screen. It was really good. Yeah. So I don't know. It just looked really good.
Yeah, I think it looked awesome. The music for Numenor is really cool. The music for the theme for Halbrand is kind of like the violin sounds like Rohan a little bit. But I really love that music to me was like the best stuff. And so whenever they'd like show the architecture or something and they'd have that music playing, I was like, oh man, this is really good. I thought it looked awesome.
Yeah.
I think my favorite character in this episode was Isildur's dad.
Elendil?
Yeah, Elendil. He was really awesome, I thought. And I really liked kind of how that whole dynamic worked between them. It's kind of interesting what they're doing with him and his son and his mention of the older brother, who I assume is already in Middle-earth. But I don't know. They might be setting that stuff up. But I just thought that was a cool dynamic. And I really like those actors. So I feel like everybody that they introduced in Numenor, I really liked. Again, I think they've done a really good job with the casting.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for more.
Is the sister just made up?
Yeah, she's
new.
She's new.
Okay.
Which originally I didn't know if they were like completely replacing
The
Isildur's
other
brother.
Yeah.
So when they actually mentioned my name, I was like, oh, okay, cool. All right, we're
you
not
think we'll
we're not
see
getting
him
rid of him.
at
I
some
think we'll
point?
probably see him in the later seasons.
Yeah.
Probably not season 1, but yeah, they do mention Anarion is the other brother. Yeah, I think all the Numenor stuff was really cool, and Elendil, yeah, same thing. That guy knocked it out of the park. He's got a great voice. I'm not gonna lie.
It's got cool armor too.
Yeah,
I like their
his
armor.
armor's
I like
cool.
their armor.
I like the sword that she gave him was cool.
Yeah.
Just all the aesthetics for them. The boats looked really cool,
Yeah.
and just those shots of them doing the drills and working on the boat. I was like, it looked awesome.
The way their sails come down is nuts.
Yeah,
It's like from both sides, like symmetrical, and the amount of clearance they got in the center of that bridge was like nothing. I was like, oh my gosh, if you mess that up, you're breaking the mast. But yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, it's compared to the Jackson films and like what time period that takes place. It's just really cool seeing like a society that's like that has their stuff together, like thriving, knows what they're doing. Like, Minas Tirith, Gondor, they were like pretty down
holding on for
down
dear
in the
life.
dumps at that point. Same with Rohan. Like, it's just cool to see like a place that's like close to its peak. I'm sure. I mean, I know what happens eventually, so a little spoiler there, but it's just cool to see kind of a contrast.
So how many years do Numenorians on average like live to? Do you know?
it's like 200 or
Like a
300.
couple hundred, right? It's
And
like a dwarf kind of.
Yeah, and they actually get to choose when they die. Basically, like usually the kings, it's not like they just are like, oh, I'm gonna die of old age. They're like, yeah, I'm good to go now, and then they die.
like that's what Aragorn does.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So do they? Do you think? What's his name? Elendil.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think? How old do you think he is?
I don't know in canon how old he is, but he's probably like 80s something.
Okay, so kind of relatively like probably basically like a 25-year-old, basically, right?
Right, for
us.
lifetime. Yeah.
So this is one
dog
thing,
years.
So this is one thing that people have brought up is that how much wiser and how much more level-headed he is than Galadriel, and so some people are having issue with that. What do you guys think about that?
I don't think. I mean, I think it's obviously Galadriel's lived a lot longer than him,
Do you
right?
think? Do you think it fits her character to make these big mistakes
I think
and
that
be super hot-headed like this?
for me, it doesn't bother me because I know the
So-
end game. You know what I mean?
So it doesn't bother you, but you disagree with it?
No, if we're comparing the character in the book, I think she's hot, she's ambitious, and she wants to rule. It's what they describe her as. So I don't have a problem with the way that they're kind of interpreting it. Like she's really focused on these things, and it's kind of blinding her because there's going to be growth. You know what I mean? If we start her out and she's just like, oh, she's got it all together.
It is tough when
boring.
someone lives for 10,000 years and we only get to hang out with her for five seasons.
Right. And then people at the end are like, because I think a lot of people have a problem because they're like, oh, she's way different in The Lord of the Rings. And you're like, well, yeah, that's 4,000 years later. Like,
Yeah.
she's obviously reached this point where and we already see it in the Lord of the Rings where she's like, I passed the test. I did it. I didn't.
Yeah, she's good now.
She was going to. She was afraid that she would be given the chance to take the ring and fulfill her ambitions of ruling, but she succeeds in that. So I think setting her up kind of at this early age of being like super focused and super kind of brash in a lot of ways, I think gives her room to grow. And it's hard because we're compressing so much time, and we don't have like.
And the way she's described in the book isn't really aligning with what she's doing right now.
I mean, they're going more with like the hot-headed type of thing, but
I mean, she's hot-headed, but she's also just like tunnel-minded. She's
Right.
tunnel visioned on Sauron,
yeah,
and so I can
Which
see.
I don't-
Oh, go ahead.
That doesn't bother me because I think they set it up. I know it's just like some people are complaining that it's been really quick, but like I said, you're kind of having to establish something and go for it. But she, like in the first episode, in the prologue, she says his mission became mine,
Right.
right? Like the death of her brother put her on this task of she's like, I need to this is my focus. And so to me, it doesn't bother me because I'm like, that's her mission. Like that's what she feels her life is about. And I thought they've done a good job with showing, especially that scene, you know, it opens up where she's like, we didn't know what death was. And then it shows like we learned what it was. And she's the one that puts the helmet on the, you know, the pile of helmets of all the death. So I think to me, I haven't had a problem with it because I feel like it's established it well.
I think it fits with what they're presenting.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand why people have issues with it because it's not exactly the same way as the books and how they portrayed it. But I think a big thing is having to accept the fact that those are multiple books,
Right.
describing all these things, and this is just 5 seasons, and you have to get her going.
Well,
Really quick.
Yeah. And the thing with the writings on Galadriel is that Tolkien wrote her after the fact. So he was writing The Lord of the Rings. They go to Lothlorien, and then he's like, they're going to meet an elf queen here. And he's like, who is she going to be? Oh, she's Galadriel. She's been around forever. And he's like, I got to write her back to the beginning.
Okay.
So he kind of has different versions of her in different writings. And there's not like there's 18 chapters of Galadriel dialogue story.
Yeah.
It's like he has stories in the Silmarillion. She shows up. There's a chapter from her in the Unfinished Tales. So it's like there's still not a lot of early content for her. So they have to make the choice of like, how are we going to convey this idea as best we can? It's the same thing with Aragorn in the movies. They make Aragorn the reluctant king in the movies, right? Because they want you to feel like, oh, he's conflicted. In the books, he's like, I'm the mother effing king, bro. Like I'm carrying my broken sword around with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Peter Jackson made the choice to say, people aren't gonna relate to that of someone that's
You're
just
not
like,
going to win people.
I'm just straight. I'm
There's
just
no
straight up
character
king.
arc there.
Yeah.
So
they did that.
So it's similar to what they're doing with Galadriel. Is they're changing her character a little bit to make her a little brash, which, in my mind, for me, I think it fits within her character of being like super ambitious. She leaves Valinor for that reason. Like she has ambition. So for that, I kind of translate that to be like ambitious, focused, maybe a little overzealous in some ways. So I think it the way they're portraying her translates in my mind, the way they're doing it. And I just think it makes sense for the story arc.
Yeah. I think the only issue is the time compression's kind of just biting them a little bit in the butt. Just because, like, when did she lose her brother, right? All that time until now, after Morgoth and basically the second coming of
Centuries.
Sauron, that's like how long? And she still has the same mission. She hasn't changed much. Like that's where I understand where people would be concerned.
Yeah,
but
because I don't know. I guess we don't know what the timeline is, though.
Right, we
Because
don't.
book wise, it's like thousands of years.
But I guess,
right.
but I guess to her also, years are like much different than ours. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
she
too.
lives to like 10K.
But I think there's something to be said about so elves basically live forever, right? Because they go to the Grey Havens and they live forever. So someone's death means more,
way more.
right? Because she lost her brother, who she's never.
She should have lived with
He could,
infinitely.
yes, he could have lived forever. Like there's this whole thing. So I think that in our minds we just think, oh well, whatever. But for them, it's like no, we're eternal beings basically, and all these people, all these elves, their lives were cut short because of this. So I think in my mind, that gives her more of a right to be like, why would she be so focused on Sauron? Oh, because Sauron took her brother from her. That to me makes sense when I think about it that way. Whereas the other thing, it's like Numenorians, yes, well, I live for 200, 300 years, right? But when I'm dead, it's over, right? With the elves, death is a bigger thing than with any other species. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And that reinforces when we did our episode 1 and 2 review, why I wanted more time spent on that aspect of that event. I wanted a little more because I feel like the simpleton, the one who's not going to really think about this very, very much, might not understand
Right.
that aspect of her, and she might be a little misunderstood. Is the only thing that I would say. But cool. Yeah, I was wondering you guys' take on that. Last thing that I would say on Galadriel. The only part of this episode I didn't
The
like
horse ride.
was the horse ride slow motion, like eye to eye, like ear to ear smile. It felt like 15 seconds. It was probably like 6.
Yeah.
But I was just like, all right, like let's just maybe it's not this slow motion. Maybe it's just like a slight smirk. Like you get the idea that, oh yeah, she really loves this.
Yeah.
But that was a little over the top for me, just personally. But yeah.
Yeah.
Could have done not without it. Just change it a little bit.
I think it was just that there was one shot
Where it zoomed in on her.
went from the horse.
Yeah, it was
and then
bang, right here.
I didn't mind the zoom up. I feel like the other one looked a little weird. Like anyway, but I thought it was
You
fine.
mean the
'cause-
transition up?
yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, oh, you're getting another
loving this.
side of her character. You know what I mean?
She likes this.
It was just too big of a jump for me. It's just a little nitpick, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's what we're doing here, right? But we just had never seen her smile at all, and then all of a sudden we got ear to ear, like the craziest smile of all. And it was slow motion. It just made it a little weird. That's
you know-
That's all I'm saying.
You can blame Zack Snyder.
So he did slow motion. So I saw several people make comments about that. The one that just drove me nuts though was this guy commented, and he was like, "Yeah, after that moment, I'm done with this show."
Okay,
And I was like, "Come on, dude.
Come on, bro.
Really? That's your thing?
He just wants an excuse to stop.
That's where you draw the line."
He's fishing for an
That's the
excuse,
final
bro.
straw.
A slow motion smile.
I gave
That's
it 3
a little
episodes.
Bro, you know how many super awkward scenes there are in like other shows, and people
It's
still
crazy.
watch them? Like,
How
get out
about
of here.
let's just talk about Fellowship of the Ring. And Frodo's like, and then Elrond's face floats around.
Dude, that was-
In Mari Presto.
that was sick, dude. I love that.
Let my life pass to him.
Yeah, dude.
Cheesy.
That's good.
Peter Jackson sucks.
Careful what you're doing there.
Just kidding.
man.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Moldo.
A little bit of perspective. You
I
what
know.
I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Little
Yeah,
perspective.
but back then,
Things
did it
could-
take me out of it? No, it didn't. Now, though.
But now,
then
maybe it would.
I'm like, it's a little cheesy.
But it's also like, how old is that? Are those movies?
20 years.
2003?
and they hold up, except for that.
Apparently, yeah. You had that reference on lock.
It just came to me.
Any other comments on the show? Anything
Well,
you guys?
the episode ends with somewhat reveal of Adar. Was it
Adar.
Adar. Any
Looks he's like an elf, right?
Looks like a pretty tall, skinnier guy, maybe. I don't know. The effect on him was blurry, and also kind of, it looked almost stretched. The
Like
perspective.
a Sylvan elf.
but
That's what I
it
heard.
was very
He's
tall.
he's an elf. He's a made up character, but I know through rumors. So I think the idea is that
This guy's cheating
Wow!
over here.
Wow!
he's the.
And I thought,
who's
oh,
the-
this is the guy that doesn't like to watch trailers
Hey, it just
before
popped up.
Spider-Man
It
trailer,
popped up,
right?
bro.
Spoiling
But he's like,
everything.
oh, rings of power. Oh, what? He knows.
Well, he's our expert.
Interesting.
So he
Exactly.
needs to stay
That's
ahead of the
right.
game.
it's he.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's the. If you ever saw the pictures they released, he's the guy with the black glove that everyone was like, "Oh, that's Sauron." That's supposed to be.
Oh yeah, he had.
Oh,
we
he
did
had
see
the
his
glove,
fingers.
yeah.
Yes, we saw the
cool.
Sauron
Those
armor.
spiky-
and
punchy
he's
glove.
It's like dragon almost.
he's
dragon
a
scales.
Game of Thrones actor. He plays Benjen Stark, I think.
Oh,
So
No idea who that is.
Well, he's one of the stars.
he looks
was
like a Game of Thrones guy. That's all I need to know.
Okay.
Benjamin was like one of the older.
Picture
I can picture
an
it.
old Game of Thrones guy with a beard. I don't think he's gonna have a beard though.
That's cool,
Break
though.
canon.
Those are the kind of things that I'm looking forward to when they have like, oh, who's this character? Because I think for someone like me who I have read some of Silmarillion and like Unfinished Tales and stuff, but that was like I don't even remember any of it. This kind of stuff is like, it's like new to me, so I'm just able to be like enjoy it and kind of be like, oh, is this?
Yeah.
I asked my brothers if it's canon or not. Like, oh, is this a new character? Which I don't mind. I think it's cool to be able to kind of introduce these new characters and kind of mess around with this kind of stuff. I think it's really cool. And so far they've been doing a good job. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what they do with this guy.
I think it'll be interesting because we'll get to. I think they'll get to play with the idea of orcs, where they come from, with some concepts that Tolkien kind of messed around with and was changing his mind about.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what they kind of do with it.
What's their final take on it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, was that what they were doing? Is that what they were doing in the first episode a little bit? Where they go to the place that's, all the way in the north, and then they're like, oh, there's the orc in the wall. And they say, oh, they're messing with like dark magic and stuff like that. Do you think that's kind of messing with like doing a little bit of the like where orcs come from, stuff like that?
I felt like they were doing experiments on the orcs.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought too. But I'm wondering if this has anything to do with like creation of certain kind of orcs or something like that, or I don't know. It's just when you mentioned that, like, oh, they might be messing around with that kind of lore. I just didn't know if that was a reference to that.
I kind of got the feeling because there was that kind of like anvil there. I thought it was more of like Sauron's messing around with forging stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
forging orcs.
Yeah.
Metal orcs.
And that guy was a sucker that had to hold the thing, and it exploded.
Blast back. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me 3.
I hate this.
Woke,
No, it's
woke
awesome.
garbage.
What garbage? Where are the beards on the dwarf?
Yeah, that's right. She had a hairy earlobe.
Yeah,
though.
she's got a little
Little
yeah.
stubble.
She's got
And apparently, I heard she shaves, right?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought that's what someone said.
your rumors didn't say that.
No, dude.
I thought that's what someone said.
They're like they're gonna have
like
dwarves with
it was
beards,
one of
but
the
they shave.
It was one in the articles that it was like she
You can see in the
doesn't
bathroom.
like having a beard, so she shaves. That was one of the character traits about her.
Cool.
You heard it here first.
So now you can start watching the show.
Deeza
and like it.
shaves with the Arkenstone.
It's a little bald.
All right, well, that'll do it for our Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power discussion.
So far, so good.
Next week we'll be back with episode 4. So thank you for listening. Subscribe and like to our YouTube. Leave in the comments what you thought about the episode, what you liked, what you disliked. We want to continue the conversation. So yeah, we appreciate you listening, and we'll be back next week.